Hello. So I am getting ready for the day. This is Sunday, and I just threw a muumuu on and posted a picture of it on Instagram. And I thought I would take this as an opportunity. These turbans are tricky. They look good in pictures, but then when you look at them live, it's like, am I sick? I don't know. And then I have this like kind of asymmetrical haircut now, so it's like a little piece sticking out over here, and then this piece. Anywho, moving on to the point of the video. Um, So I just posted on Instagram, and the caption just said MuMu Mansion. And I just thought, there's so many people who don't have any idea why that's the name of my brand. So I thought I would give you a quick explanation. And I'm curious, feel free to comment what you thought it meant or what your assumptions were, or if you even knew that's what it said. Um, but I have always, no, I'll take that back. Somewhere in my fashion development, I really embraced the caftan, um, which to me is the same thing as a muumuu. A muumuu is obviously what we used to make fun of our aunties and grandmas, wearing around the house, braless on the weekends. And a caftan sounds a little more luxurious and a little more St. Bart's. Um, but I think conceptually, the idea of a muumuu and that you can be braless and that it has no restrictions. It's kind of the metaphorical opposite of a shapewear. So, given my work around body positivity and also around just not needing to always be flattering and not needing to always accentuate your curves, but just be, I think that the caftan and the muumuu is really symbolic in that way, just a sense of freedom and comfort for women. Men historically don't like muumuus. It's not the sexiest thing to hang out around the house in. So I've just always had an affinity for what they meant stylistically and symbolically for women in fashion. And then I had another girlfriend a long time ago who also was really into them, and we would collect vintage muumuus, and we'd always look, out for each other and look at vintage stores. And so we would hang around a lot in muumuus. And I said, when we're old, at that time I was married, and I said, when we're old and widows, or we're, divorced or whatever, let's just a bunch of us live in a big mansion, sort of like Grey Gardens, the film. If you haven't seen that, you need to, because it's very important to me. I'll do another video about that. But when we're old, let's live together, a bunch of us, in a mansion and wear muumuus and a lot of jewelry and live like basically Mrs. Roper and drink margaritas and talk about our lives. So that was my long term plan. And then I got a divorce at 30 or 31. And I actually moved in with my 92-year-old grandmother, who I got all my style from, um, and to be her caregiver, and moved into my family home. So it's the home that I grew up in. And while not a mansion, it is two duplexes side by side with a large courtyard. So it's 4 units total, and my grandmother and son and I live in one together. And it has 5 generations of energy in it. And so I just realized, like, shit, I'm living in MuMu Mansion right now. And so what that ended up being was really a place where women and, a lot of women in my life and clients and friends and whatever could come and just live in their kind of femininity and in their freedom and in their energy. And so I had this big collection of muumuus. I lived in this sort of like a mansion with my old ass grandma who's a divorcee. She's now a widow. I guess she's not a widow because my grandfather, they weren't married. So yeah, she's a divorcee, and so am I. And so we live here in this home that has all this kind of stylish caftan, muumuu, feminine, feminist energy. She's also a big jewelry person, so the two of us share a love for jewelry. So I realized I was living that life now, and that as this next chapter of both my personal life but also my styling career was being created, that's really the energy that I wanted to create, is women being free and women being together. and I host a couple monthly events here for women on a variety of topics. Um, so it just has this embodiment of, like I said, female energy and style. And so that, in a nutshell, is what MuMu Mansion means. It is an actual place. Um, I have a fantasy of one having locations in different places. I have a girlfriend, Elizabeth Taylor, that is her real name, who lives in New York, and we have a very similar kind of sentiment about women and fashion and plus size and community and healing the women. And she's a vintage collector even more than I am. And so when I'm in New York, we always call that MuMu Mansion East. And now that I've been to Atlanta, I can absolutely see a MuMu Mansion South. So that's exciting for long term life goals. But also, being that I have the 4 units, though they're rented at the time, we own them. And my fantasy is to really create a place where women who are in transition, either just divorce or domestic violence, but have a place to go with their children to kind of rebuild and heal. That's not a shelter. So I would love to have the other units kind of be multi-family homes that women could live in for 6 months during transition. And I could help provide them with social services to help get them back on their feet. So I'd have to become a nonprofit, do the whole organization thing and foundation, but I really love that idea. I have a lot of resources, and I think I have good energy when it comes to healing women. And I'd love to see other women who were in positions like mine have somewhere to go, since I was fortunate enough to come here, but a lot of women don't have that. So that's MuMu Mansion in a nutshell. Hey, my videos are getting longer. They used to be 2 minutes. Sorry if you're not sticking around for the 7 minute videos, but I just thought it was important to share who I am and what we're doing here and why I walk around in caftans all day with lots of jewelry on and serpents on my head. Okay, yay, happy Sunday. Cheers from MuMu Mansion. Ciao.